Hey y'all, hi. Okay, listen, we have to have a talk with me before this video starts because there are a lot of products here. This is supposed to be revisiting my past reviews, going through some products that I've reviewed before, that I've talked about before, and giving additional information and maybe slightly adjusting, amending my initial reviews of these products. And to prep for it, I just went through my drawers and I pulled out everything that I spotted just on like one pass, everything that I know that I've talked about before and about which I feel like I have additional information. So for each one of these products, I was like, oh yeah, there's something else that I haven't yet told them. And I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, like 20 things. Okay. And some of them are sort of in groups, so that might help. But if I do my customary endless blabbering about every tiny thing, then this video will last for all eternity. And we can't have that. So I need a guiding principle. I think for each product, I'll say what needs to be said. I'll do what needs to be done, but I'm going to focus on trying to distill it down for each one of these products to the one crucial piece of additional information. Like if I had to say it in one sentence, I'm going to make sure that we get there. And I feel like focusing that way is going to help me get through the video in a reasonable length of time. If this is your first time to my channel, then this is an exciting video with which to start because it is like a wide-ranging multi-product review. You're going to get a sense of what kinds of products I tend to review, what I tend to care about, what I tend to say about them, the good, the bad, and the weird. My name is Hannah. I'm trying really hard to make content that celebrates the love of beauty, but without promoting overspending. So sometimes that means videos that are specifically about thoughtful consumerism, and sometimes it just has to do with the overall vibe and the way that I approach reviews. That's probably more what it's going to be today. If you enjoy this, I hope you'll subscribe. And now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, I have lined them up before me, and now I'm going to knock them out. It's in no particular order. Some of these things are kind of deep cuts, if you've been around. I recently really learned what that means, and now I'm using it all the time. So some of these are not really deep cuts, but some of them are a little bit blasts from the past of the channel. Many of them, however, are quite recent reviews, like things that I've reviewed within the past 3 or 4 months. And the first one is that. This is the Exa Primer. I recently reviewed pretty much everything from Exa Beauty, and it was a very uneven experience. Some of the products were, I felt, horrible, which I feel like kind of makes me suspicious of everything from the brand, because it's like, how could you? If you could make this incredibly oily and patchy liquid eyeshadow, then how could anything else that you do be good? However, this primer is really good, and I feel like I gave it short shrift in that video because I was like, it's fine, but it's nothing to write home about because it's very lightweight. I likened it, I think, to a liquid version of the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer or the Tatcha Silk Canvas. And there actually is a liquid version of the Tatcha Silk Canvas. I think it's just the Tatcha Silk Canvas Liquid. I don't know what it's called. And I've never tried that product, but I imagine that this is very similar to that. I'll link, of course, my Exa video if you want to see me pump this out, see the consistency, see me apply it to my face. Clearly, we don't have time for that today. But in that video, I was like, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's nothing to write home about. And then since that video, I've used it almost every day, especially if you're into what they call clean beauty, especially if you're looking for a lightly pore blurring, sort of semi-soft satin finish primer that feels skincare, that isn't heavy on the skin, that's easy to use and that does its job and that is in a cute little luxury feeling container with a nice pump. This could be the one for you. It could be that it is the intersection of all those things, the thing you've been looking for. And I feel like I just wasn't kind enough to it in that video. I feel like sometimes unremarkable is good, It's not gimmicky. It's not trying to outperform everything. It's just doing all the things that it says that it does and doing them well. Moving on, we're doing well. I'm going to talk about all the green color correctors that I've talked about recently. So I did like a roundup review of green color correctors, very thorough, and I will link that below as well. One of them is no longer here, the Kiko Milano one that had so much white base in it that it just kind of made my skin look more pink. In the wake of that video, I continued to toy with the LA Girl Pro Conceal and the Chanel green color corrector, probably using the NYX one in the most. But as soon as the Exa video came along and I reviewed the Exa high fidelity green color corrector, it kicked all the other ones out, and I have only been using it since then. It's this wonderful gray green. It's like a desaturated green, and this as well I demonstrated the application of in the Exa video. I've been thinking about saturation in color lately and really realizing that one of the reasons, maybe the primary reason that base products don't work for me across the board is that they're too saturated. And it'll often read, the experience will often read as being like, oh, it's too orange or it's too peach or it's too pink or it's too dark. But in many cases, the issue is that it's too saturated. I think the thing that really, I was about to go on a tangent. I'll do it really quickly. The thing that really reveals this is I think I have it. The Purito BB cream. It's too dark for me, but it's super desaturated, almost gray. So I can make it work. I have to mix it with things to lighten it up a little bit, but it works so much better for me than the vast majority of base products, even ones that are closer to my skin lightness. Like a product will be lighter than this, but it'll look so orange or so peach on me. And that's because those peach or orange or pink pigments in it, there are too many of them, like too much color pigment, just too much saturation. So I am on the hunt always for very pale, super neutral, desaturated base products. And this is just a less saturated green than any of the other green color correctors. And because it's more desaturated, it works way better. More desaturated isn't really what you'd say. You'd say that it's less saturated. Anyway, that's by way of revisiting the green color corrector reviews. All of what I said about the subtle differences between the three of these and the other one that I reviewed, all of that still stands. But at that time, I didn't realize that what I was longing for was a gray green, a desaturated green. And since then, I found one. Okay, let us talk briefly about mascara. I just feel like my current mascara arsenal is pretty great. I would say I have an even more developed sense of what's great about each of these 5 mascaras than I've had, especially when I was like first reviewing any of them. And I just want to deliver that to you for each of these right now. The Gucci mascara is incredibly buildable, but only once it starts to dry. And because of that, and because it has this really comby comb and is quite lengthening, you can get a really combed through, clean, structured, wispy lash with this, even with several coats. And you can leave it there. But then if you keep going, as soon as the formula starts to set a little bit, starts to dry, it starts building on itself like crazy. And from there, you can keep going to total spider town. And I like both of those things. So because I've sort of figured out that this mascara has this kind of tipping point, I've come to think of it as an eminently versatile mascara. The best for a super high voltage but soft wispy lash, and also the best for a super high voltage crazy gunky lash. Of course, it's very expensive, but to me, it's worth it as a treat once in a while. Ilia Limitless Lash is just incredibly lengthening. Everything that I said about this in the past is still true, especially the long side of the bristle wand makes it particularly easy to control. It's really buildable, and I'm also able to use a little brush to move my lashes around where I want them. I can get them to curl up, I can get them to flare out. It's a surprisingly dramatic effect mascara, and when I just feel like I need the absolute most, I will often use it either as a layering mascara or as my main mascara. However, the thing I didn't know before about this is that it's a little bit hard to wash off at the end of the day. And when I first got it, I was so into it that I was using it every day. And then I started to back off of it a little bit because some days I was like, I just don't feel like dealing with the extra time that I need to spend massaging my lashes to get it off at the end of the day. Slight caveat for this one. The Esom mascara. This is the recently released mascara from Muse Beauty Pro. It's really good. It's really good at grabbing and lengthening your lashes, kind of like making the most of what's there. I find that it tends towards the natural though, no matter what I do. I like the Gucci mascara and the Ilia mascara because I can get unnaturally thick, long, false lash effect lashes with them. This one, it's always kind of like pulling me back to a little bit more of a wispy, natural shape. Like everything that comes from Muse Beauty Pro, it makes sense that it was developed by makeup artists. It's very easy to use. It definitely brings its own kind of drama, but it's just a slightly tempered drama. For some people, that's probably an ideal quality though, because it makes it hard to overdo it. The e.l.f. Big Mood Mascara is just absolutely bananas. Thick, crazy lashes. The only drawback of this, and the reason that I find myself sometimes reaching for other things instead of it, is that the brush is so fluffy. It doesn't give me that same sort of sculpting control. But it's the only mascara here that is drugstore, and if you like the kind of lashes that I like, and if everything I've been saying about all these mascaras appeals to you, I really recommend trying e.l.f. Big Mood at some point. And then lastly, the Chantecaille mascara. This is the Chantecaille Longest Lash. Of everything that's here, this is the one that I use the most, and it's partly because it's supposed to have a serum in it or something that nourishes your lashes and makes them grow better, but that wouldn't be enough for me if it wasn't also a great mascara. It just does it all. It lengthens, it thickens, it's easy to build volume. I love the way my lashes look when I use it. I can get a wispy look if I want one. I can get a super built, unnatural, false lashes look if I want one. I just feel like it never lets me down. It's really expensive. It's like if mascara is the only makeup you buy, basically, then it might make sense to get this one because it's just so good. Over time, it has really, really sold me on itself. And I tend, when things are this expensive, to be like, oh, come on. But with this, having had this tube for a while and used it a lot, I've gotten to the point where I understand why it's such a celebrated mascara in spite of its price. Okay, we did it. We made it through the mascaras. Let's knock out a couple of lip products. So the Kjaer Weis lipsticks. I love the colors of these so much. The two that I have are the two reds. They don't only make red, but Kjaer Weis, when they sent these to me, it was because they had launched like a new subset of their lipsticks that are all reds, and the colors are so beautiful. These are the two that I love the most. Confidence on top and Euphoria on bottom. And I'm actually wearing Euphoria, the darker one, today. I just used a little bit of it in the center of my lips, rubbed it in with my finger, and then used a gloss, like mixed a gloss in with it to lighten up the look a little bit. And that actually makes sense with what it is that I have to say about these. When I first got them, I was wearing them all the time because I love the colors so much. And it's not just the colors, they have this really rich, velvety, super saturated quality of pigment that I just feel like is kind of a cut above. I love the art supply feeling of them. I love working with them. And the thing that I've learned about them over time is that they just don't have the best lasting power. They're not super tenacious. And because of that, I've started using them a little bit more in this capacity. It's like I'll use the pigment as pigment, knowing that it doesn't have that dry down and stay put sturdiness of some bullet lipsticks. So I find with these, when I do a really thick overlined application where I filled in my lips and gotten this super statement look, like the color is stamped onto my lips, it'll look beautiful for, I don't know, an hour, maybe longer than that if I'm not doing much eating and drinking. But if I go about my day, after some hours, the lipstick will have worn away from the inner part of my lips, but not the outer part, and you'll really see the difference. It's like they don't wear as elegantly as some formulas. But if I don't go overboard with the application, if I use it a little bit more like a stain, not so much like a thick painted on layer, then it wears more elegantly. And so that's what I've been doing with these. And you know, the colors are amazing, so I still take advantage of that and mix them with other things, rub them into the skin of my lips. I just don't as frequently wear these as full-on, all over the lips, dramatic statement lipsticks. Let us talk about Haus Labs. I recently reviewed Lady Gaga's makeup, Haus Labs, and I was blown away by this highlighter, the Bio Radiant Gel Powder Highlighter. Nothing has changed about my feelings with regards to the formula. I really love it, and I've actually worn it a lot since I filmed that video, and that's why I have more to say about it. There's something that I hadn't quite cottoned on to by the time actually, that was the first impressions, wasn't it? It was. So of course I hadn't cottoned on yet. There's something that I failed to cotton on to within the space of time of filming that video about this color, which is that it has quite a gold shift. And it seems in the pan like it could end up being that sort of nude highlighter that's like a pale neutral champagne. I thought that that was what it was going to be, especially because there are a lot of colors. I think there are like 8 or 10 colors in this highlighter range. And so I picked the one that I thought was the closest to my skin tone. And I expected that because there are so many of them, and a lot of them do have like a really obvious gold or copper shift, I expected that this one would be more natural for someone with my skin tone. But in fact, it has a pretty strong gold flip. I've worn it a lot since the day that I did the first impressions of Haus Labs, and I really love the sort of drenched wet look that it gives, even though it's a powder or like a gel to powder. I still like applying it. I like the way that it goes on over other products. Everything that I said in that video is still true. But whenever I wear it, when I catch sight of myself in the mirror over the course of the day and I kind of like check my cheek out to see what the highlighter looks like, I will sometimes catch this just really almost orange gold shine, and I just don't like that. So many makeup products that are supposed to be gold or bronze or neutral in some way lean orange on me that it's kind of become a pet peeve. And the thing that's weird about it is that there aren't any, or there's one that's silver, and maybe the silver is a little bit more of like that pearly neutral, but there aren't any white gold or actual champagne or even like a soap bubble blue kind of shifting highlighters in the pretty generous shade range. It seems like they all lean gold is what I'm trying to say. And for me, that's not ideal. So a little bit of a caveat for this one. The opposite of a caveat for the Edge Precision Brow Pencil. I've been using it ceaselessly since I filmed that first impressions. It's what's in my brows today along with a little bit of pomade. In that video, I remember being like, it's nothing to write home about. It's just a good brow pencil. And then I was like, well, come to think of it, I really like the way my brows ended up. Maybe it is something to write home about, but I was just a little bit cavalier. And since then, I feel like I've developed more of a nuanced appreciation for it. The thing that I really like about it is that I'm able to get filled in brows where I want them pretty easily. So it's creamy enough that it transfers pigment really easily. And I can use soft, short strokes to just fill in my brows basically from here to here quickly, almost always flawlessly. Like it works really well no matter what. I just never struggle with it. But I'm also able to use very, very soft strokes to shade the inner part of my brow to just make it a little bit darker, almost like a watercolor wash. So I feel like the lead of this or the crayon of it is soft enough to make it easy to get a dark color, but hard enough to make it easy to get a soft color. I do wish it were a little ashier. This is literally ash brown. According to the pictures in the listing, it's one of the least ruddy ones. Like it looks truly neutral, almost green. I feel like it could be ashier. I feel like they could have more neutrals in the range. Okay, continuing on, let us talk about some skincare. I didn't do a full review of this, but I mentioned it in a video recently. What was it? I think it was a trying new makeup video in which I applied the new Salt New York Sneaky Balm. That was it. And I was talking about how my skin was like a fresh new baby skin because I had been doing dermaplaning and because I had been using this new skincare that was sent to me in PR. And I did a demonstration of it because it's got this weird system where the hyaluronic acid squirts up from inside and then the powder goes in on top and then you mix it together and you're like a little chemist at your vanity. So at that time, I had just started using it and I was gagged because my skin responded instantly to it and responded really well. And I've continued to use it with an eye to being able to give you more information. I feel like it's kind of expensive. I mean, it's quite expensive, but it also feels like it is truly innovative. Like the powders are the ingredients in their purest form and you're mixing it freshly right before you apply it. And it just feels like, especially when it comes to delicate ingredients like vitamin C and resveratrol, it feels like there couldn't be a better system. And my skin has responded so well to it that it feels like they might be onto something. So I don't think this is my final verdict on this product, but I just have more to say. I'm going to give you all of the details right now about how it's going between Exponent Beauty and me. They sent me one base, which has the hyaluronic acid serum bottle screwed in underneath it. And they sent me 2 powders, the CoQ10 antioxidant one and the resveratrol one. Here are the things that I've learned. The powders are not the same. I mean, obviously the ingredients are different, but they also perform a little bit differently. So the resveratrol one is very, very, very fine, a very, very fine powder, almost like powdered sugar. It dissolves very easily into the serum that comes up underneath in this little dish, and it makes a very cosmetically elegant serum that I love putting on my skin. I love the way it smells, I love the way it feels, and I feel like my skin is absolutely loving it. The CoQ10 is grainier and it doesn't dissolve as well or as quickly in the hyaluronic acid serum, and sometimes it ends up being kind of a grainier serum that I'm putting on my face. It just doesn't feel as cosmetically elegant. However, I've been using them both the entire time. I use them one on top of another, or I use one night and then the other the next night. So I'm saying that I feel like my skin's responding really well to the resveratrol, but it could just as easily be the CoQ10, and I just feel like it's the resveratrol because it's more cosmetically elegant. Who's to say? I mean, it could be that it's both of them, or it could be that it's this one. I just feel like my skin has been smoothed and brightened and plumped, and that's like what both of them say that they do. So probably they're both working. It's just that because I'm sensitive to those qualities of texture and the experience of it, I feel like if I were to repurchase, I would probably be more excited about repurchasing the resveratrol because it's more gratifying to use. I also get the sense that CoQ10 isn't as delicate of an ingredient. I feel like CoQ10 is in a lot of skincare, and resveratrol is supposed to be in a lot of skincare too, but I think that it's the kind of thing that goes bad quickly, and it might say that it's in the skincare, but it might not actually be doing what it's supposed to do. Kind of like vitamin C. They do have vitamin C powder. Exponent does make one, but I was afraid to try it because I'm using retinol and I just feel like my skin is kind of sensitized, so I just opted for 2 mild, soothing ingredients. But I bet it's a really great way to deliver vitamin C to the skin, this formula. 2 other things. One, I have learned that, this is how you're supposed to do it. You take the top off, you put it in, and you press down and twist. And I'll link the video in which I actually demonstrated this and showed you the serum so that you can click through and see that if you want, but I'm not going to do it right now. You press down and twist, and the twisting, I've learned, is what causes the powder to dispense. Pressing down is what causes the serum to come up from underneath. So what I have taken to doing, because what was going on before is that I was getting so much hyaluronic acid serum and it just felt like too much, and I was worried I was going through it too quickly. I have taken to twisting until the powder dispenses. Then I press down gently just to get the amount that I want. If you watch the demonstrations of it on Instagram, they'll show you pressing and twisting. And I feel like if I were doing that, I would be going through the hyaluronic acid too quickly. So that is my little tip for using it if you decide to try it. But the one caveat that I have that I didn't have before, and this is the main thing that I wanted to return to this to tell you, is that in my experience, it pills under other skincare. Really, it's under makeup though. That's the issue. I have taken to only using it at night. It's not a problem for me under my other skincare at night. I'll put on like a pretty thick layer of it, and then I can even go on top of that with oils and serums and all that other stuff. And then if I just go to sleep after that, it's fine. But when I first got it, I was using one of them in the morning and one of them in the evening. And I found that I was dealing with pilling all the time. And I thought it was like a primer that I was testing. I actually thought it was the Exa primer for a second, but it turned out not to be. It turned out that whenever I used this exponent system in the morning, later in the day, I would find like pills in my makeup around sort of this part of my face. And when I switched to just using it in the evening, that problem stopped. I don't know if they say on the site that you can use it morning and evening. I don't know if they claim that it wears well under makeup, but to me, it's an evening treatment product and not something to be layered underneath like sunscreen and primer and then makeup during the day. I think for that product, the jury is still out for me on whether I feel like it's something that I would buy with my money. Maybe if if I had more money to spend on skincare. I feel like if you are out there looking for like the best, most innovative, most exciting skincare and you have money to spend on it and you're not worried about that, like it's not a budget issue, I would check them out. I'm excited about this brand and what they're doing, and I'm excited about what it's doing for my skin. But I hesitate to recommend them with all the passions of 1,000 burning suns because I'm aware that a lot of people are priced out. How I feel about it personally with my own budget and where I'm going to land on it remains to be seen, but I will come back and tell you more about it in a couple months. Okay, back to some makeup. Let's talk about Kosas because I reviewed a bunch of Kosas products a couple months ago and I was so impressed and so effusive. The overall takeaway from my Kosas review was that I feel like Kosas is really good makeup, especially for mature skin or dry skin. I find the formulas, especially the base products, really elegant, and I don't really understand why they have been moving increasingly towards dressing the products up in this more youthful, kind of kitschy feeling packaging. Because I feel like the formulas outperform the vibe. And the report that I have to give about these and the powder as well, the base products from Kosas, is that nothing has changed. If anything, they've continued to just impress me more. Everything that I said is still true. I feel like the concealer is a less high coverage product. It feels more like a lightweight base. Not so lightweight as to be like a tinted moisturizer or something, but it feels more like an in-between product. Whereas the foundation feels much more high coverage and more has the qualities that I tend to look for in a concealer. I feel like the foundation has the qualities that we tend to attribute to concealer or expect from concealer, and the concealer has the qualities that we tend to expect from a versatile foundation, basically. I said that in the review and it remains true, and I actually do kind of use them that way. I tend to use this one as like an all over the face sort of single layer, and I tend to use this one a little bit more judiciously, spotting it on and blending it in with a little brush like one would with a concealer. But the thing is, every time I use them, I'm like, whoa, look at my skin. And that is also true of the powder. I've actually talked about the powder at more length, I think, on camera because I've used it pretty much exclusively since that review. It's a very interesting powder because it does mattify a little bit and help dewy skin to be a little more dry, but it doesn't really take away the shine. That lovely look of skin that's been powdered and then you've lived in for like an hour and the natural dew is starting to sort of melt the powder and break through. I feel like I get that lovely look with this instantly. Like that's the way my skin looks right away. It's like mochi skin, but just a little bit dewier, a little bit less powdery than you would think when you think of mochi skin. But I would say this is my perfect mochi skin powder. I really, really like it. And I appreciate that the color is pale enough for me because it isn't a translucent powder. It has a little bit of color and, it has a shade range and the lightest shade is sufficient. So yeah, nothing but good things still to say about those products from Kosas that I liked so much the first time around. And lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Victoria Beckham cheek. And this was a while back. I mean, I think it might be over a year now since I reviewed Victoria Beckham makeup, and some of the products I love so much. I feel like you'll know this if you watch my channel, but the eye kajal in bronze, maybe my all-time favorite product, especially of last year. I mean, I love that product. I use it all the time. If I remember correctly, I was already very impressed by that in the review, and I was unimpressed by the eyeshadow, the brick. And I feel like I really gave the blush the benefit of the doubt. I really wanted to love it. I love cream blush, and I've continued to want to love it. I also really like the color. It's beautiful in theory, and I just find that my cheeks look a little patchy whenever I try to use it. I tried again recently. I took it with me when I went up to New York the last time I went there, and I just wasn't satisfied with it any time. I feel like it's a little bit difficult to build and blend evenly, especially when there are blushes like the Phytosurgence blush on the market. Unbelievably creamy, the pigment, the color. I mean, there are Phytosurgence blushes that are this color. You don't need to buy this Victoria Beckham blush to get this color. That's like what it does. It sort of grabs and gets like a little patchy. That's like how my cheeks end up looking whenever I try to use it. It's almost like a cross between a blush and sort of a stain, but I don't mean that in a good way. today. I think that this might be a situation where it was just hard to believe that such a high-end feeling, much touted formula could be giving me this kind of trouble. Like, I think maybe I felt like it was my fault, but I've had it long enough and I've been trying to make it work for long enough, wanting to make it work for long enough that I'm having to finally admit that I just don't get along with this formula, at least not the one that I have. I only ever had one and I've only ever tried this color. So maybe the other colors are different, but I just have to revise my review, whatever. I don't remember exactly what I said the first time because it was long ago now, but I've come to think of this as a fail for me. I've come to think of it as a product that I don't like. And I'll probably, now that I've articulated that to myself, I'll probably give it away. And that is it. Those are my review revisions for today. I have to say, I kind of suspect that there are things that I've reviewed recently or not so recently that I said that I was going to come back and talk about again that I forgot about today because I garnered these products from my drawers. Again, I looked through and I picked things that I wanted to say more about, but I didn't go through my videos and look for videos that might deserve an amendment, you know? So if there are videos that you'd like to see me revisit, review videos, or products you'd like to see me revisit that I didn't revisit in this video, let me know because it's been a long time since I did this, but I'm fully prepared to turn around and film another one like within the next couple of weeks. So put your wish list for reviews you want to see me revisit or products you want to see me expound upon in the comment section down below. Again, here at the end, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, especially if you've been watching for a while and you haven't subscribed. It's no skin off your nose. That's what I'm saying. But even if you'd rather not, or if you haven't made up your mind yet, that's fine. I just hope that you will remember to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.